So yeah, I think what was really nice to see was you kind of taking on notes that we're giving you and applying it, which is great. So we've just given them to you, and you haven't even had time to digest this kind of information, and you're applying it already, which is brilliant. So just now with practice, you're gonna nail it. But just a couple of things I think to think about from this particular group from you guys. Ice seemed to be an issue. We were missing ice or bits of ice from a couple of different people. It's super important for the reasons I kind of explained before. But the idea is that you're giving the patient an opportunity to impart what they want to impart, so that it feels patient led. It feels like I have a say in my care, if you know what I mean. It also helps you because it gives you a kind of starting point. The concerns, and I said this a few times today, but often how it's affecting the complaint is affecting us psychologically or day to day is sometimes the bigger issue than the medical condition itself. So it's great for us to be able to get that off our chest. And again, it gives you insight and expectations. It gives you almost a starting point of where to go. Okay, now we know what we're dealing with. Now we know what the patient wants. Let's explore that. Let's not park it. Let's explore it. So I think you can afford to do ice a little bit sooner than people have been doing, because it's quite a nice, obviously not necessarily immediately, but earlier on in the consultation to give you an idea of where you're going. It straight away gives you, instead of you having to think about what questions you're going to ask the patient, it gives you your questions. You know where to go with it. It then becomes ping pong. You're just asking, I'm replying, asking, replying. So I just think it's super important for all of those things. It makes us feel good as the patient, and it helps you get through the consultation. So more eyes. AEE, again, I'm sure this has been said a lot. So, and again, if you're struggling to sound sincere with it, or it feels like it's becoming, you're doing this a lot, let's say even in real practice, and I'm sorry to hear that, I'm sorry to hear that, and maybe you're not really that sorry to hear it, do you know what I mean? You don't really care because there's been so many patients with silly complaints or whatever. Just think again about that, the order of it. Acknowledge what they're saying to you. Empathize and find that energy to kind of encourage the patient further. Well, it's great that you're here. We're gonna do our best now to get you sorted or to help you. So it's super important. And if you're just struggling with knowing kind of what to say, then just throw it in. It must be difficult. And as Nigel think has said, like, you can use, again, with that acknowledgement, you don't have to come up with your own term. You can just repeat what the patient said. So I feel really worried about it. I can appreciate you must feel worried about it. So you're just repeating their words. So don't put words into their mouths necessarily, because it might not be an accurate um uh,
Reflection,
reflection,
it's that
exactly what they're trying to present.
it's
So
that
just use
using their
their
language.
language. I would say,
Just
and the
say
only other
what you see and mean what you say. That's all it is, and then take it further. That's the
Yeah, and the only other tiny thing I just wanted to say is just careful, everyone, of your introductions. So some people weren't even mentioning that they were a doctor. They were asking for my date of birth. So if someone called me up and said, "What's your date of birth?" I'd be like, hang up. So just make sure you're introducing yourself properly and clearly so that I can hear you. I mean, to be honest, I don't think I properly heard people's names because it was just rushed through
yeah,
and get straight
yeah.
in. It's important, as Nigel says, first impressions count. You want to appear professional. You want the patient to not think, "Who's this weirdo on the phone?" So just, straight away, make sure your introduction, I can hear who you are, where you're calling from, and just,
Mm.
start as you mean to go on.
I would agree. That's a very good practical point that actually, before you even say, what's your date of birth, you should be introducing yourself and then saying, the reason obviously for the call, so on and so forth. And that's definitely much more important over audio consultations. A round of applause for Louise, please. Thank you very much, Louise. And Happy New Year. And we will see you again for the next one shortly. Thank you very much. Okay, great. So we are going to just start encapsulating some of this feedback, a few slides, and then we're going to get some group feedback.